Welcome, dear friends. Pull up a chair, grab a warm beverage, and join me for the Aspiring Author Diaries. Last week, I shared that I got my developmental edit back, and I was so excited. I shared the good news and also the areas that I might have to really work on. And one of those was point of view or perspective. So it was interesting to me that that was something I had to work on, because perspective, point of view, is actually something I talk about quite a bit in my work as a spiritual care advocate. So I provide spiritual care to elders in skilled nursing facility. And one of the things that we talk about quite a lot is how we view the world. For instance, how we might view a situation as happening one way, and another person could view it as it happened in a totally different way. A lot of times we often only see one small part of a much larger picture. Another way that we talk about perspective as well is when we talk about how do we want to focus on what's happening in our life. Are we directing all of our attention to what's going wrong, or are we also giving some of the attention, some of the focus on what is going right as well? So it was interesting to me to be dealing with perspective, POV, but in a totally different way. So what is POV in writing? Well, very simply, POV is how, what voice, what perspective are you writing from? Is it first person, using words like I and me? Or maybe is it third person, talking about a character from this outside perspective? And within third person, there's also limited omniscient or limited third person and unlimited omniscient. And I remember as I was looking at all these things and relearning them, I remember hearing about it in high school and studying it, when we're looking at these great authors. But I wasn't quite sure what it felt like in my own writing. What did it feel like to take this perspective in my book? So what my editor had pointed out is that I did a lot of head hopping, and sometimes I kind of flipped between limited omniscient or like limited third person and unlimited. And honestly, I didn't quite know what that meant in application. I mean, I understood it in theory and I looked it up and I got it, but what did it actually look like, in the manuscript itself? So I decided to take a short self-paced course on POV from Writer's Digest, and they suggested reading this book, Finding Your Writer's Voice. And so that really helped me through a series of exercises, as well as like short lectures, get a better handle on what really is the difference between limited third person and unlimited third person. So what I came to understand, at least the way I think about it, is that unlimited third person, unlimited omniscient, is kind of like you have the reader here and the scene or the character here. And then in the middle is this narrator. So no matter what scene or what character or what's happening in the book, the narrator always stays the same. It's the same voice. It's the same feeling and understanding. The narrator has the same amount of information, which they may or may not choose to disclose. But it has this distinctive aspect to it. So that's unlimited, omniscient. Compared to limited third person, how I understand that to be is that it's a lot more rooted in the character that you are portraying in that scene. So let's say you're writing a scene from, the main character's perspective, and maybe they're a young, silly 15-year-old girl who doesn't know much about the world. The way that she sees the world, the way that she interprets things, the way she feels things in her body, her thoughts, all of those kind of take center stage. And although it's not written as I or me, it's still from her perspective. So you can't know what the other character knows. You can only know what that character knows. You can only experience things through that character's eyes. And so if you are writing a book that has maybe multiple perspectives in it, you might switch in another section or a chapter to another character's experience. And let's say it's an 84-year-old woman, right? That voice, that perspective, that experience of her body, of her mind is going to be so different than the 15-year-old girl. So in that way, you can see how the voice is kind of changing a little bit with whose perspective are we focusing on. So that's what I've started to understand during my explorations of point of view. And I find myself being able to really start to get into a groove. And I'm starting to also understand why my editor said that if I can really, tighten this part of the manuscript up, it'll actually make the book feel a lot more, show a lot more rather than telling. So, right, if you're writing from this kind of perspective, you're really entering into the character's experience. And so you kind of naturally show more rather than tell more. So I've been having a lot of fun exploring this and just learning about it, coming to understand it, and also fixing areas in my manuscript and just seeing the difference and seeing how it feels different. In some cases, it feels right, which to me is always an indication that we're going in the right direction. So this book, I've only read part of it so far, but it's really been a help with this. And my library was also having a sale, so I picked up some other books that I've heard mention in writing circles as really great books. So I picked up Writing Down the Bones by Natalie Goldberg, Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott, and On Writing Well by William Zinsser. So I'm excited to jump into those two, and in case you're also looking for your next good read on the craft of writing. So thanks for joining me on this journey, and I can't wait to find out where we end up. Take care.